Hi everybody and welcome back. My name's Laura Bell-Main and I am your coach and guide for all things application security that you can achieve in just 1 hour per sprint. In this video, we're going to be looking at some of the common challenges that you might face when you start automating security tasks. Now, this is part of Sprint 3, where we're looking at embracing laziness. So how can we automate our way into being able to get more done with less effort? And that's not a bad thing. It's about using our engineering mindset to its best ability. But like any other automation challenge, there are a lot of moving parts. So let's talk about some of the common issues you might face and how you might overcome them. Now, this won't be an exhaustive list. You're going to find hurdles on the way. That's part of being an engineer. But also part of being an engineer is listening to the mistakes of others and trying to avoid them. So hopefully it gets you in the right direction. So the first mistake I alluded to in our last video where we looked at the foundations of security automation. So one of the biggest mistakes people make is they get really focused on the automation and not on the action itself. Now, by that I mean automating something's fun. You're an engineer, you get a dopamine rush, you're solving a problem, but it's a means to an end. You're not in love with the hammer, you're in love with the wooden frame that you've made using hammers and nails, right? So we want to make sure that we're not spending more time thinking about the tooling and the automation than we are actually getting the value out of the results. Now, if you remember that old XKCD comic from a long time ago with that little table that we all laugh at and go, how long should I spend automating something and how much time is it going to save me? This is where that is really, really helpful. Hold yourself accountable. If you're getting obsessed tinkering with the automation, you may have missed the point. So stop. It's okay. Take a breath. Let's focus on the outcome. The next challenge is alert fatigue. So that's the idea that you're going to send off all of this automation, and by the time you're done, there might be dozens of different tasks that you've automated. That would be great. Imagine how much time you're going to save. But if each one of those is noisy, so it's, sending you a Slack message and an email, and it's putting some stuff in Jira, and it's creating this, you're going to get overwhelmed really, really quickly. And when alert fatigue fits in, then we're highly likely to stop paying attention. So if you find that actually everything's getting very, very noisy, stop. Now, one of the tricks that I use when I'm using Slack, for example, is I name and have specific private channels or public channels for where my robots hang out. So that's where my automation happened. And I call them all the same things. They all start with bots dash and then the purpose of the channel. Now, that helps me concentrate the messages just to the audience that needs them and to keep each channel focused on a theme. So I can tell if my automations for this theme are getting a little bit overexcited because that channel is going to explode. And I can see if this automation, there's nothing been in this channel for a while, is that automation still working? It's a good way for me to kind of remind myself to go and check on things. So use some segmentation and use some thought on when you choose to alert and where you alert to make sure you don't overwhelm people, even if that people is just you. Another common challenge is that you're going to be integrating probably with a number of tools. A number of them might be open source, or they could be commercial platforms. In this series, we don't really promote any particular commercial tool. You can do most security things on your own or with free or open source tools. But the challenge with that is you're integrating with someone else's code. Now, unlike the code you integrate with as part of your day-to-day life, you don't have a contract with these people. They don't go, hey, I agree, I'm not going to change things without telling you. They're going to change things all the time. And so you might end up with fragility in your automation if you're automating something that is changing rapidly. So make yourself a note. Make yourself a reminder, you could even automate it, to go and check, make sure that there's no brittleness, there's no vulnerability in, your security actions, because we don't want to find that the thing we were relying on, that automation layer that we have decided we're going to trust and use to trigger our behaviors, we don't want to find that that's not working. Because if it's not been working for a while and we didn't know it, that's a big gap in our knowledge. And that's knowledge we're not going to be able to get back if something goes wrong. It could also be the difference between meeting your compliance requirements or not. So a lot of the reason to automate is to make things like compliance really, really easy because, the robot's going to do it for you and then you just have to get the evidence to the right place. Now, if you are in a compliance regime that requires you to show evidence over time, breakdowns in automation can cause real headaches there. So make sure you're doing those checks. Is it still working? Am I still okay? It doesn't need to be daily, but once a month. Just go check in. Are the robots still alive? That sounds a bit dark, eh? Right, hopefully those tips and tricks will have been useful to you and help you overcome some common challenges. If you've come across a challenge that you've got a solution to, don't be afraid to share them, either here as a comment or drop us an email at hello@safestack.io. I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, like and subscribe to this video, to this channel, and keep up to date with all the content we release.